because that's not how it works. Stock markets don't work like that. Those of you who are, into this market for less than a year, and I know there are a lot of you that watch me that have only just started to play the market or have, let's say, begun to pay attention to the stock market thoroughly and intently since this year, since this January or late fall last year, because you were stuck at home. You were, you were given all this extra time, liked it or not. You were given all this extra time to kind of, figure out something to do at the house, and you hopefully you cleaned up and straightened up. But one day you probably noticed a bunch. You probably noticed in the last 6 months, little things like you're looking at your 401k for the first time in ever, and you're taking a look at your investment returns with your with the various investments you have. You've noticed, you've always known that you've had an employment savings plan or an employment stock plan, or you've had a 401k at work where your employer matches to a point. You're figuring all this out. Some of you folks have figured out, wow, dang, I got a pretty good deal going here. My employer's kind of generous. The first X amount that I put in, they match, and this is fantastic. I had always known, but I'd never considered really. And others have thought, gee, I should bump my my amount into my 401k because they're matching up to 4% or 6% or whatever the number is. I should max it because it's free money. And then a number of you have figured out in the last few months, and in the last year, this happened a year ago or so, that you realized, I got this money inside of this mutual fund or this investment company fund or whatever, or I have a financial advisor, quote unquote, through this firm, this firm, this firm, and I'm looking at the returns on my money, and I'm looking at the market, how it's just doing, like the entire index, and I'm underperforming the stock market. I'm not even performing as well as the market. This is crap, and yeah, it is crap. If you're getting charged a fee to have your money managed, and the returns on your investment over time underperform the general stock market, you're better off just pulling your money out of a place like that, opening your own account where you have full control over what you're doing, and just buy an ETF that mirrors or buy an index stock fund that just mirrors the index performance and be done with it. I mean, you want to match the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or the Dow or all three, divvy up your money and just buy these index funds, and that's it. Just, all right, I'm happy. I'm happy, you'll say. If the Dow goes up 20% this year, I'm up 20% this year. I'm happy with that. I don't have to beat it, but I don't want to underperform it. And so a lot of you out there, especially those of you who are talking to me on a one-on-one private basis, you folks out there, and you know who you are, and there are many more like you. You hang out with me for an hour, and I ask you the skill testing questions about, well, what's your situation? Where you at? And we review kind of where you've been lately and where you are now and what's going to happen. And over an hour, we figure out together kind of where you could really improve yourselves and make a huge difference going forward. We kind of I try to give you the big 5-10 year picture from now and go, well, why don't we fast forward 10 years from today and figure out where you should be a decade from now versus where you've been versus where you might be if you don't do anything, if you keep doing what you're doing. And it's shocking. People are going, oh my God, geez, this is real. Oh, I'm glad I talked to you for an hour. This is so worth it. Well, in the past, I get it. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you tell me how busy your life was a year and a half ago. Every day, every week, you know that Monday to Friday you were up to here in work. Then you had overtime and extra time they wanted you to put in. Some of you had to put in weekend work. Then there were those of you who are, those of you who are single, those of you who are married without kids. Either you haven't had them yet, or you had them and they're gone, or those of you who are in the middle of raising the fam. You tell me how much time you had a year and a half ago to really sit down with your significant other, for example, to analyze your lives and figure out where you're really at. And you didn't have time. You didn't have an hour. You didn't have a half hour because Monday to Friday it was all spoken for. And at the end of the day, you had to figure what to do for dinner. And after dinner, you had to clean up the house. And after that, you watch an hour of TV just to de-veg, just to unvegetable, just to kind of de-stress. And then it's bedtime. You're exhausted. And then Tuesday, the same thing. And Wednesday and Thursday. And it's just nonstop. And the overtime and maybe weekend work and then weekend commitments with family, friends, whatever. And then how many of you were hurrying up to get ready to take a holiday? And you needed a week off to unstress from all the hype you were going through the month before your holiday. And then the holiday's over and now you're back to work again. You didn't even unstress. You only got rid of the stress from the 3 weeks prior to the holiday itself. You didn't take care of any of the stress from the year ago since your last holiday. How many of you were in that position? Did you really have time in the last 2 years prior to COVID to really assess yourselves? The answer is no. There's no way you had time because this world is constantly changing. And you have to constantly adapt to this world that you're in. Like us here in Creston and anywhere else, we're constantly evolving this plant. This plant's evolving, especially in the Western world. Things are happening, man. And so you're beginning to figure out where you're at. So coming back to your investments, in the last year, more Americans and Canadians and Europeans in the G20 have self-analyzed themselves than have in the last decade. And I'm not kidding. It is substantial. It is phenomenal. And people are sitting back going, all right, let's figure out where we're at here because, I don't have to commute an hour a day to the office anymore and an hour a day on the way home anymore. And I don't have to work my 8 or 10 hour day at the office anymore. My life now, my work life is here at the house. And if I am working, and a lot of you are, you're working from home. And you're working from home much more efficiently. And you're able to give your employers 8 hours of serious work a day that used to take you 12 hours to deliver. Because remember, you had the lunch hour, you had the coffee breaks, you had the commute time in the morning, the commute time in the evening. You only gave them 8 hours of quality time, 8 hours of work time, if that, in a 12-hour time frame. Now, you're able to give your employer 8 hours of quality work in a 24-hour window like butter. It's as easy as a hot knife through soft butter. It's like no problem. And there are those of you out there who are working too hard from home and not being rewarded for it. You're putting in your 10, 12 hours at the house and you haven't asked for a raise. You haven't decided to, or maybe you're about to decide, but you haven't yet decided to quit your job. In cooperation with your boss, like in a negotiated deal where you say, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to hire myself out to you as a consultant. And you just pay me for the hours you need me. And this is my rate. And you're going to figure out how much you got paid now at home or how much you got paid at work lately with all your benefits. And you figure out what your hourly rate was. And then you're going to add 50% to that. You're going to add 50% to that. And that's your new consulting rate. And or what you're going to also do is you're going to figure out, well, wait a minute. If I were the employer, like if I were the boss, the company that I work for, if I were that company and I were to be told by my boss, I want you to hire a consulting company to take over, these functions, the functions that you are doing, that you've been doing for the last 5-10 years, you'd be shocked at how expensive it would be to hire an outside firm to replace you. You'd be shocked. And that's the rate you're going to charge any company because they can't get you for less. They can't replace you for less than they're paying you from the outside. And anyone from the outside has no idea of the inner workings of the company that you're working for. After all, you're absolutely the insider of insiders when you know your boss's habits, how your boss likes the reports, how your department wants things done, how your coworkers like things done. You know it. You're there. You're the perfect person to hire as a consultant because you're seamless. You're just ready to roll. But it's time for you to be paid what you're worth. And a lot of you are figuring this out from that angle. But coming back to your investments, just come back to the investments. Come back. You looked at your 401k. you took a look at your Roth IRA, or you figure out you need one. Some of you have decided, you know what, Bruce, I'm taking control of my life. I am now managing my assets. I now handle my investments. I don't leave it to the firm's investment, whatever entity. I don't leave it to the Fidelity people, the Charles Schwab people, the Ameritrade people. I don't leave it with BlackRock. I don't leave it with whoever I'm using, whatever firms you're using, Chase Manhattan and Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan and on and on and on. You name your investment banker if you have one. Name your asset manager if you have one. Name the ETF managers, the hedge fund managers, the mutual fund managers that your money is with. You know the names. Fill in the blank here, and then ask yourself, can I make more money for me than they can make for me? Because you're the most motivated person there is with respect to how you're doing with your money. They're not as motivated as you are, because especially some of these firms who are specifically going after your capital to add to the capital that their firm has under administration as a whole, they're just charging you a 1%, 2% a year fee, whatever they're charging you. Every month there's a fee coming out of your account for administrative fees, or however they word it. And it's just based on the value of your account. And you brought them 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever the account was, and they're just taking a slice. And you own a piece of a mutual fund for $5,000 or $3,000 or $2,000. You got fees coming out of your mutual fund, but you don't see it. What you see is your actual return. So the fund sends you a statement in your email, and you open it up and you dig into it. How many times do you do that? You really dig into your mutual fund and you go, oh yeah, like for the last year, my mutual fund returned me 6.4%. And the year before that, I returned 6.6%. The year before that was 4.8%. And then you look at the market and you go, well, the Dow in the last year, or the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ index, they're way better than that. These guys aren't even generating me my returns on to equal the market. What do I own inside these funds? And so a number of you have taken upon yourselves to liquidate out of positions to take on your own lives. And some of you out there are pretty sharp, because you've underestimated how sharp you really are, because you guys are survivors in this G20 world in which we live, from a number of angles. And you don't give yourselves credit. I'm here to tell you, you're doing okay. Number one, you're hopefully, cross your fingers, you're healthy. Number two, your kids are healthy, your husband's healthy. Number three, you have a fairly happy home. Number four, the kids are doing okay at school. You're looking to get, doing that. Number five, career's going okay. You, your husband, or you on your own, your husband on your own, you as a single, you're a guy or a girl, you're on your own, doing okay. Kids are out of the house and they're in school and whatever. We're going through all the trials and tribulations. We're surviving a pandemic in any way we can. Fine. Give yourself lots of brownie points, because that's number one. But number two, you are sharper than you realized, because you took control of your investments a year ago, 2 years ago, and you decided, well, I kind of know IT. I'm in the IT business. I'm in the IT world in the job I'm in, because of all of the contacts our firm has in the IT world. And we are constantly doing business with a number of companies out there that are large public companies. And I know, you're sitting there going, I know how successful these guys are, because we pay bills to these companies. Our company owes this company money for services rendered, and these guys are always behind, or they're always so overloaded. We can't get them to work for us fast enough. We're always in line to get their services, and their prices never come down. This company is global, or this company is regional. This company is US wide and is growing leaps and bounds. Certain public companies out there that are really doing well, and it's because of your own exposure to them through your husband, perhaps relatives. So friends of yours that work for a particular company that's on fire. They're getting internal reports as employees from their managers going, this is a record-setting quarter, everything's going great, we're doing this, we're doing that. You're hearing about this stuff because you're on the front lines of life. And you're realizing I'm going to buy some of that stock over there in that company because I know that company very well. I know more about that company and its day-to-day operations than any analyst in Wall Street. And I certainly know more about what that company is up to on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter basis than any mutual fund manager, any hedge fund investor would ever know, because I have a unique insight to this public company or that public company or several of them. And some of you have made moves with your money to buy into what you know. You're buying what you know. And you're doing just fine. You're not only beating your former money managers, you're not only beating the pants off of your old mutual funds or ETF investments that you had, you're putting them to shame. You're putting the market to shame. You're outdoing the Dow. You're outdoing the S&P 500. You're outdoing the NASDAQ because you are cherry picking, as you should, the investments that you know and that you like, companies that you can understand and relate to, whether it's just from a lifetime of work experience or whether it's from just in-house knowledge at where you work, or it's just from a relative, a friend, or many relatives and friends, social contacts, you name it. You just have an in certain parts of this economic world that you know about. You just know about this stuff, and nobody is going to tell you more than you know yourself. You might hear some technical analysis from a chart professional, or you might watch a YouTuber like me or another YouTuber out there who tries to give you a technical analysis on a company, blah, 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 or a sector or whatever. Yeah, it's all good. It's all, any knowledge, additional knowledge is a good thing. But you yourselves have this absolute window where you know that, oh, that stock over there, those guys are hiring. I know for a fact that they are hiring like crazy. And what are they after? They're after these kinds of people who are like top level software designers, creators. They're the top IT professionals. They're whatever their field is, and you just know you know they're hiring like crazy. Now maybe you're in the human resources business, maybe you're in the HR department of your company, and your company's been having trouble hiring people in your company because other companies in your area are hiring too, and they're hiring the kind of people you want to get your hands on. You can't seem to nail down top-notch people because these guys over there keep hiring them away from us. Or you're noticing how your top people, some of your best all-stars get picked off within your company. You've seen it in the last 5 years where even in your, wherever you're working in your company, whether it's accounting, HR, development, sales, wherever you're working, you're noticing that, in the last year, we've lost like 25 people that I used to know around here that were all really good people. Like they were the best. They were like our top 10 percentile. We're losing a bunch of our top 10 percentile. What's happening? Well, they're getting stolen. Who's stealing them? Well, there's like 2 companies in this region that are picking off our best people, and it's happening elsewhere too, because my best friend works for another company, and I talked to that friend of mine, and they're losing their top 10 percentile. And I have a relative over here that's 50 miles away, and they're telling me that companies over there are having trouble losing. Who's picking them off? Oh, it's this company over here. These guys. It's just these guys over here. Yeah, those guys over there. A publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange that has offices across the U.S., and they are picking off the best people in a 200-mile radius of your neighborhood, and they're just stealing all the best employees, and they attract the university grads, the top grads, and you're sitting there going, geez, these guys are paying top dollar too. Like they're paying big bucks for these people. And they're expanding like crazy. When you are a company that is expanding at an aggressive rate, and you're after you're going after high paying job people, you're dropping coin on your payroll. This is serious money, because for every dollar in cash an employee gets for their job, you can add another dollar to that for the benefits that have to be paid off, the medical, the retirement, all that, the accounting, the HR people, the managers, the cubicle space itself, the equipment that they use. So you're talking someone who's making $100,000 a year, it costs the company $200,000 a year for that. employee, and they're picking off all kinds of people like this. You just do the math, and you're going, "Oh my God, this is millions. This is just this office here. These guys have 25 offices, or they have 10 offices, or they have, they're global. And the word, you start investigating these guys and do some Google work on them. You start looking at their financials, and you're going, oh my gosh, they're growing leaps and bounds. Is it any wonder they're picking off all these people? You got to invest in this company. That's what you're going to do. And so some of you out there who are making more money with your money than the professionals that you hire to make money with your money. It's not the professional's fault necessarily that they're underperforming what you're doing, because again, you are not covering the entire market, and you're not covering 500 employees or investors. You're covering yourself. You are looking after your little box right here, but that's okay. That's what you're about. You're looking after yourself incorporated. A bunch of you are figuring out that you can be better money managers than others. And you're watching YouTubers out there for guidance and ideas and thoughts. And some of you are watching Uncle Bruce, and you're telling me one-on-one, yeah, I really like watching you. You kind of get to the point. You make it easy to understand. The gobbledygook I used to get from financial advisors I used to deal with, I couldn't understand a word these guys were saying. They were talking in such language that I wanted to get off the damn phone. And you know what? Now that I've left these guys, I get it. They wanted me off the phone. They didn't want to talk to me. They actually wanted me just to leave my money with them, so they could hand it off to their money managers, and then they can move on to the next client, because they weren't interested in trying to hang on to my money. Of course, they were interested in that, but now that I have my money, they have no more interest in me on a personal basis. They're after the next me. They're looking for the next person they can bring in, open up accounts with, sweet talk them into some fantastic investment opportunities, send us a bunch of email brochures, show me this incredible fancy dancy research they do, and just have me tie up, have the next person tie up $250,000 or $500,000 and put it into under admin for their account, because these reps aren't Uncle Bruce kind of people. They're not this guy. The Uncle Bruces of the world are extinct. You can't find Uncle Bruces anymore like you used to. There was a time where only Uncle Bruces existed. In every small town in America, in Canada, and everywhere else, in every city, there were all kinds of guys like me who had our 200 to 500 clients each, who we looked after, and we knew on a first name basis, and we knew the wife's name, we knew the kids' names, we knew you the last 3 jobs you had. I used to know my employees' last 3 jobs because I grew with them. It was a decades-long relationship, several decades. That's gone. That's all gone now. You're talking to a 30 to 35-year-old to 40-year-old investment advisor that is a college graduate with student debt up the wazoo, that has been given quotas by 40 to 50-year-old managers who've been given quotas by 40 to 50-year-old senior managers. The pressure is just coming all the way down. And these grunts, and that's what they are, and they know what they are. They're grunts. They're 33-year-olds who are being told how lucky you are that you're with a firm like us, and that you ought to be grateful that we took you on, and that we're training you to become a successful, I don't know what you're going to be, a money manager or whatever. In effect, out of every 10 that are hired, maybe out of every 20, maybe one will become an assistant manager of a firm, eventually a manager in charge of the next series of grunts, to motivate them to get on the blower and to get out there and find assets and bring in assets. And these new 30-somethings and 40-somethings, these young kids, are under unbearable pressure, and they have to make $100,000 a year to payable to them, or they're out the door, because there are 1,000 candidates for every job that's out there. I mean, there's all kinds of university grads who would love to get a job at JP Morgan or with Chase or whatever the firm is called, to go after the so-called high-end investors, the sexy-sounding, incredible, invigorating stock market investment world. When they get in there, they realize, and within about 6 months, and then within a year or two, they figure out, oh my God, all I am is an asset chaser. I'm just going after cash. I'm just going after people's assets. I'm just trying to steal accounts from other firms. and I'm trying to get people to open up accounts here to put in a $5,000 a month contribution every month or $2,000 a month or whatever I'm setting them up for to build cash under admin. And I'm handing all that money off to my managers who go, we're putting my customer into a bond fund, into a stock fund, into a growth fund, into a dividend fund, into whatever fund, all internal funds that we run, all managed by our top guys, and they're all somewhere else. They're not here in the office. They're like in New York somewhere. And I am just a gatherer of cash. That's all I am. And the manager is saying to them, hey, you got it easy. You bring in $5 million a month, bring in $50 million a year, million a week, bring in $1 million a week, $50 million a year. You're getting paid a percentage of that money. That's your payoff. And the first year you get X amount. The second year you get a residual. And the more money you have under admin, the more money you guaranteed to make every year when you come through the door. So you look at a 10-year veteran. Look at yourself 10 years from now. The 42-year-old over there, or the 38-year-old. You're 28 now, or you're 22 or 23. The 33 to 35-year-old who's been doing this for a decade. Look at that successful person, and you're asking yourself, is this really what I want to be? But that successful person is making $150,000 to $180,000 a year. They're married. They got 2 kids. They got a mortgage, 1 or 2 cars, and obligations. They need to make that kind of money because after tax, where they live, depending on what city they're in, it's expensive, and they need to make that kind of cash. And so they're always on the blower, and they're always looking for leads to get more money. And so they have no time to talk to you about your existing investments. They don't want to talk to you about your idea, where you call them up and say, hey, listen, I just heard a story about a company that I thought was really interesting. Oh, you did? Oh, yeah. Well, what's that? As they feign interest. Well, it's this company that's called GameStop. Oh. Don't you think you should just stick to the investments that we recommended to you? Don't you think that would be a better way to go? Because after all, your objectives were long-term growth and stable income, and they want to talk you out of talk about GameStop. They don't want to talk to you about GameStop. They don't want to talk to you about IBM. They don't want to talk to you about any idea you've got, because they're not going to be interested to necessarily put money into work where you want it to work, because that means they have to take money out of one of their funds and then do what you want to do with that money. That's the last thing they want to do, because after they get off the phone with you and they complete that transaction, the next thing they do is they get an email from their manager going, what are you doing? What's going on over there? For the last 30 minutes, you haven't made an outgoing call to any new customers. What are you doing? What are you selling this for? What are you buying that for? What's going on? Well, my customer called and they wanted to make this change. What? I thought you were in charge of your customer. Well, since when is your customer in charge of you? This is the kind of crap these guys are getting. They're not going to tell you this. They're never going to tell you this. They're not going to admit it. And no firm will ever admit it. You're going to hear it from Uncle Bruce. You're not going to hear it from anybody else. I know this business. And the bottom line is the manager's under heat. If too many of these salespeople start to divert their attention away from asset gathering and try to trade, that manager gets a phone call or an email from either someone else in his office, her office, or from the regional area going, what's going on in your branch? Your numbers aren't syncing up. You're supposed to be generating 20 million a week in asset growth, and you're now down to 16 million a week. What's the matter with you guys? What's wrong? Do I have to hire a new manager to replace you to get us back up to 20 million? What's going on? Oh, and by the way, next year you're supposed to do 22 million. It's growth, baby. What's your excuse? What happens is that some of you out there quickly figured out, yeah, every time I call my guy or girl, they don't have the time of day for me. They really don't want to hear what I know. They don't care. And they are not all that motivated to get me in. And then, you want to sell the stock and you can't get through. They're on another call right now. You just want to put in a sell order. You're not getting serviced. And so you're going on your own. You've been going on your own, and you've got the time to be at home, and you're working on your computer here for your boss. But over here, you got this. Or over here, you got what I got. You got one of these big boys, and this is tied to your market. This is tied to your account. And some of you are doing it through Robinhood or Fidelity or Charles Schwab or whatever firm you've decided to use, and you're handling your own affairs. And you decide when to buy, when to sell, how much to buy, how much to sell. And yeah, you make mistakes. You get winners and losers, but all in all, you're on top of the market and you know what you're doing and why. And you're doing your tabulations. You're going, you know what? I started when I was told by my boss last year to stay home and start working from home. It was about a month after that, I pulled out all of my statements and I went into my accounts for like the first time in a year. And I took a look at my retirement account and my 401k and my employer plan and all this stuff. And I did the math. And I didn't like my returns the last 5 years. And I've been working my tail off the last 5 years for these guys and everybody else. And others are not working as hard for me as I am for them. I took control of these dollars, put them into my own control. And in the last 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 months, I've made more of a return on my own money than I've ever made with any money manager ever since I graduated school and was able to start saving cash. I'm not going back. And I say kudos on you. Way to go. Yes. And that's exactly the way this world works now. You can't call Uncle Bruce anymore in your local town and talk to a one-on-one collaborator with you. There are no more me's. I'm 65. I'm going to be 66 this year. If I were a broker, if I'd have been one, I'd have been retired by now. So forget that. Go downtown to any city you live in, anywhere, and you talk to a guy like me who's retired, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, you see that building over there? Oh, there were 3 brokerage firms in there back in the 70s and the 80s. They took a floor each, those guys, and at that tower there were 4 brokerage firms, and on the corner there was a firm here, and then in the suburbs there were branch offices. They're all gone. They're all long. They shut them down in the 90s. They shut them down in the 2000s because as soon as everything went on to platform trading, human beings became expendable. And the game plan was to drop the accounts that are less than $25,000. Get rid of them. Don't service them at all. Just piece them off into mutual funds and just let them go on their own. Any accounts between 20 and 50,000 or try to get them to 100, and if you can, then slough them off into some house funds. And customers who had $1 million or more, they would still have an advisor, but the advisor might not be in their hometown. The advisor might be in a city 100 miles away, 200 miles away, might be in another area entirely. It's all changed out, kids. The human interaction is gone. You're on your own. You have to do it yourself. And some of you out there are cut out to do it. Some of you are not. I get it. And a lot of you are cut out to do it. You're looking anywhere you can, any way you can, to figure out, where do I get the info I need to be ahead of the curve? How can I stay ahead of the market? And some of you, 2 points. We've got the S&P up 19 points. We have the NASDAQ up 54. So the pre-market looks good. We're opening in 18 minutes, and we're pleased to see that. And we're talking about how you are taking control of your life. And I'm proud of you, those of you who are. I sympathize for those of you who are adrift right now. You've been abandoned by your investment advisors, or you just can't find one. You just can't find an investment advisor that gives a crap about what you're about, what your needs, wishes, hopes, and desires are, because you just don't have enough money for them to care. And I hear you, and you are on your own. Although I commend a lot of you who are excited about the fact that you're working from home. You've turned yourself into maybe a consulting type person. You're making more money now than you've ever made before. Some of you have still kept your day jobs with some of your employers, but you've taken on a second gig. You've taken on a part-time gig on a consulting basis on the side to try it out. And you got your guaranteed salary coming from this place, and you're giving them their 6-8 hours a day of effort, and they're happy with you. But then over here, you've got 3, 4, 5 hours on the side. That's 15, 20 hours a week that you're now putting into another outfit, not even in your city. It's like elsewhere. It's a referral somehow you had, or someone you've always known. You've got extra work coming in, and you're doing the math, and you're going, geez, I worked for these guys over here for the last 15 years, and this is how much money I make. And then I work with these guys over here for like 15 weeks, and how much money I charge. I make more money in 15 hours working for these guys than working for these guys for 40 hours a week. If I could get another one of these guys and get rid of this guy, I've got two part-time outfits. I might only be committing 30 hours a week of my time, and I'm making 150% of the money I used to make working full-time for these guys. And these guys keep telling me that I should be happy to get a 2% raise for the cost of living. I should be thrilled that they haven't gotten rid of my sorry ass. And the other thing I've noticed about these guys that I worked with 15 years, I started at age 25. I'm 40 now, and I'm noticing that people are getting bumped up ahead of me that are younger than I am with less service. And I noticed another little thing. It's a funny little quirky little thing. As soon as you reach about 50, around that 50 age mark, I've noticed a pattern. They don't last anymore. These people kind of get to be 50 years old and then they're gone. They melt away. It's like they just evaporate into the sky, and they've moved on to bigger and better things. Huh? I'm 42. What am I? What? Ooh, I've been working for 20 years, since I was 22 or 23, 24, since I came out of college. I got 15, 18 years of experience, frontline experience. I know everything there is to do about this job that I have. I know more than my manager, because my manager is an idiot. And there are VPs up there that this guy reports to. They don't know what I know. And I'm the lowest paid person on this totem pole. And that just isn't right. And I'm never going to be brought up there. Why? Because I don't go golfing with these guys. I don't go fishing. I'm not in the same clubs, or whatever the reason, whatever it is. Too many others like me in the company. I don't know. But you know what? I've decided that in this COVID time, where I'm stuck at home and I'm on my own, and I'm doing a little bit of searching, a little bit of digging, I'm able to find consulting gigs. Might be one-off work for 5 hours here or 10 hours here. Or I approached a company that was a competitor of our company, or in another industry entirely, that I came to them and said, I have this experience, blah, blah, blah. I've incorporated an LLC, because I'm not hiring myself out as me. I'm hiring myself out as company, blah, 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 the enterprise company. And they're hiring the enterprise company for 10 hours for part-time work, for part-time consulting work, 40 hours a month. And they're prepared to pay me 10 hours a week retainer, and then so much an hour over that. And they're delighted with my work because I'm really good at it, and I'm fast, and I'm quick, and I've already made all the mistakes I was going to make 10 years ago. I'm now a very efficient, lean machine. My company is a winner. And you also know something else that you're kind of figuring out, some of you out there. You have friends of yours at work. You have associates that you've worked with in the past that are sitting at home, and they're bored, or they're not happy with their situation. And you have an opportunity to work with a company over here that is looking for 3 people. They've got 100 hours a week of work that they need done. And your entity has been approached going, can you handle this for us? And you're sitting there going, well, I could call, so-and-so and so-and-so. And if I gave them each 25 hours a week of work, and then I did 50, there's 100 hours a week of work. We could do it under my company name. And wait a minute, I would pay them so much an hour and pay that person so much an hour, but my firm charges this much an hour because it's a company. And the difference between what I pay them for their time versus what I charge the employee, that's mine. I get an override on other people's work, and I'm in charge of it. I'm on top of it. I can watch it. Hello, a whole new world just opened up. You've just become an agency. You've just become an entity, and you're no longer an employee of another company anymore. You're now a self-employed LLC, limited liability corporation, running your own company, and you've got employees that work for you on a contract basis, because you don't pay them unemployment, you don't pay their health care, you just pay them a flat rate per hour because they're mini sub-consultants under you. And so all of a sudden you go, yeah, when I don't need them, I don't have them anymore. When that contract runs out, I don't need them anymore. I'm not letting anybody go. I'm just saying to them, I got a contract and it's going to pay this much an hour for so many weeks or so many months until it runs out. Are you interested? And they're going, yeah, I'm bored to tears here. I can't get out. Or I hate my job. I don't want to go back to that office. I don't feel safe in my office. I want to work in my home. Well, you can make 35 bucks an hour working through my entity if you want. $35 as a consultant, no deductions? Oh, yeah. And then they set up an LLC with all their deductions against the $35. They only pay tax on $25 an hour, and they're only putting in so many hours a week. They're virtually working for tax-free money because they don't make enough to pay taxes on. In your case, you've got an LLC. You've got all the deductions off of the top as well. You're paying them out for their fees. That's coming off the top. Then there's an X amount left over. You decide what to pay yourself in a salary. You decide the rest will be retained inside the corporation. And maybe once every 6 months or a year or so, you'll decide to pay yourself a dividend. You'll have a chat with your tax advisor first. In the meantime, you're doing all that. And on the side, you're managing your investments. And you're in charge of that, and you're doing a better job than anyone else out there. Welcome to the new world that opened up in the last year, and that's just a snippet of the world that I'm talking about. I am talking about a slice of the world. This complete planet of ours has completely transformed itself in the last month. And those of you out there who are thinking, naively, I think, that, oh, it's just going to go back to normal. Everything's going to be, everyone's going to go back down to Manhattan, and they're going to go back into those high rises like before, and they're going to have their bag lunch, and they're going to go to the Starbucks down the street and have their coffee, and it's just like it was before. You can forget about it. It's not going to happen because corporations have figured it out as well as individuals. Corporations have figured out with their bean counters, hey, what the hell are we doing? Why do we need 30,000 square feet in Manhattan or in downtown Baltimore or Philly or Washington somewhere or Pittsburgh or Detroit or Chicago or LA or Denver or anywhere? Why do we need a giant office with a zillion employees in here when we can have only a third of the people in this office and the other 2/3 are all remote hired? Why don't we do that? And why don't we hire all those people over the next year, fire them all, like get rid of them, and then rehire them as consultants? And we don't have to pay all these benefits, and we don't have to do matching and all this stuff. They have to figure themselves out. And I say great. For you guys, oh, I think it's great because now, of course, these companies who are going to do this, they're going to have employees from within the city, yeah. But within a year, I bet you a third of all the outside employees that they have don't live within 100 miles of their office. They're all over the place because all you need is an internet connection, kids. You can be in Miami and work for a company out of Seattle. You can be in Denver and work for a company out of New York. It doesn't matter. You can be in Dallas and do work for a Berlin-based company. It doesn't matter. It's an internet thing now. It's maybe a little bit of time zone stuff. Who cares? This is easy to handle. It's a whole new world, and corporations are gonna figure out we're not going the way back. Those who are going the way back are the dinosaurs. Those guys are done for because they're limiting their talent pool to the people that can come into the office, and the best talent that they need actually, half of their employees actually should be hired remotely from around the planet, the best there is. But they're only hiring the folks who can get there through the subway and through the train or through a car or through a bus or a combination of the whole thing. They're dinosaurs. They're going to lose out because companies that go remote will hire the best talent they can get globally, and they will have the highest base talent base in their industry, and they will kick butt. And there you have it. And the question is, are you one of those top-notch 10 percentile people that now will not be taken advantage of anymore as a perceived lower level grunt in a cubicle office where you knew more than the 10 people around you and the 5 people above you that you reported to? You knew more than all of them combined, and yet you're the one who's being suppressed and kept in that little cubicle and told to shut the hell up and just be grateful you have a job. Those of you out there are about to be liberated, and it's going to be a breath of fresh air And oh my gosh, your lives are about to change for the better if you grab it. You got to want it, man. You got to want it. Don't tell me you don't want it. You got to want this. And you've got to take a chance on yourself sometimes. And if this pandemic hasn't convinced you you're a survivor, I can't help you, because this last 12 months has probably shown a lot of you out there, I'm a lot tougher than I thought I was. I'm a lot more resourceful than I thought I was. And when the chips are down, I kind of like investing in me because I can count on me, where others just have underappreciated what you're all about. And it could be an interesting year coming up for a lot of you out there, and I'm excited for you. I'm pumped up, I'm jacked, and I wish you all the best. Believe in yourself, keep it going. Don't ever let anyone tell you you're no good, because that's crap. Thank you for joining me here today. It's Uncle Bruce, Motivator. Here we are, Monday, May the 3rd. Welcome to May. L4G Customs, L4G Custom Fabrication.